Hi, I'm Crystal.
And I'm Karin, and you're listening to the Rom-Com Detectives.
Welcome to Rom-Com Detectives, episode 10, Straight Flush, the next episode in our Mentalist unit. Today, Karin and I will be talking about the 6th episode of the first season called Red-Handed.
This episode originally aired on November 11th, 2008.
Be sure to listen all the way to the end of this episode for a special announcement for our listeners. So we're going to start with the case briefing as usual. So this case takes place in Nevada, actually close to the California border.
The title relevance, the case begins with a severed hand found on the highway, but also there's a casino employee that has been stealing. And the term caught red-handed means you've been discovered in the act of doing something wrong. The phrase dates back to 15th century Scotland and refers to when thieves killed other people's livestock and they'd literally be caught with blood on their hands.
Pretty gruesome, but kind of cool, yeah. So the victim and cause of death. Victim was James Quincy Meyer, and he died from blunt force trauma, despite being found with just as just a hand at first.
The motive was anger over being fired.
This episode was actually stacked pretty high with guest stars. There's Greg Henry, who was Cal Trask. He has almost 200 acting credits, and he's been in Scandal and The Killing, which is a show that I really enjoyed. There's Lance Barber. He's the husband. He's from Young Sheldon and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Gwendolyn Yu, she's the card dealer who's cheating. She does a ton of voice acting in games and animated show. Like she was most recently in Bad Batch and things like that. And there's William Allen Young. He's Etienne, and he's from Cold Black, and he's actually on Good Luck Charlie, which was one of the Disney kids shows that my kids used to watch, and I really liked that one. So, and
Nice.
then there's Andrea Parker from Pretty Little Liars and The Pretender. So yeah, lots of people.
Wow.
There was a luck factor in this one, I guess. A lot of these people went on to have good careers. Jane's skills. Kind of a lot in this one that we get introduced to, but some are really cool. His sense of smell. He does card counting, or is it called card? It's not. He doesn't call it card counting. Yeah, he calls it card memorization. So it's like
Right.
partly with his. It's like to do with his memory palace, but he's also good at poker and card hustling. So, all right, getting to the episode breakdown. Like we said, it starts at the California-Nevada state line, where a dismembered hand was found on the highway. And Cho and Rigsby show up, and they're debating whether it'll be their case or not, because apparently it's literally right on the line, and that's going to determine whether it's their case or Nevada's case, right? So,
Yep, they
and
have the guys out like measuring the distance from the hand, the signs. They have a whole crowd there.
So Rigsby complains about having to work this kind of case, but Jane is like, he's optimistic, and he's like, we've got plenty to work with. And I love this part because you're just like, what is he talking about? It's like one hand. Like,
Yep. And Van Pelt's like, it's just a hand. It has a number written on it. That's all we got.
And then I think this is the first time he does something like gross like this, right? He gets down near the road and he sniffs the hand, and everybody around him's like, what the heck? I love how Lisbon just explains his weirdness by saying consultant. As if that
Yep.
explains everything. He's not one of us. He's cop adjacent. But yeah, then he makes a guess, or what sounds like a guess. He makes a deduction on what the guy does. He like goes through all these different things, and he says that he's upper or middle management in the hotel or gaming business. And Cho's like, that's just a guess. And then they make a bet, right?
Yep.
Using only the loose change in his pocket. And this gets Van Pelt all upset because She says they shouldn't bet on people. And makes a joke that, well, if you're in Nevada, it's totally legal to bet on body parts. And I was wondering, is he serious? Can you bet on body parts in Nevada? Like, that's not what she was talking about, right?
Right.
Not legality. She was talking about morality. Or is it ethically? I always get that mixed up.
Yeah, they're similar. So,
But yeah, then Lisbon shows up and tells him it's in California, so it's their case. And she also reveals that the victim ran a casino because I guess they ran his prints.
yeah,
And Jane wins 35 cents.
it's such a fun opener.
He wins a lot of money in this one.
Yes, he does.
35 cents is just the beginning. So now that they have the victim's name, they go and they talk to the family where they meet the wife, the daughter, and the son-in-law. And the son-in-law is giving off like douche vibes, right?
Absolutely. He's yeah, just kind of staring at there's a game on, a football game, and he's just paying attention to the game.
So Jane goes and snoops around in the guy's office and he looks at the photos on the wall. And when the daughter comes in, he guesses that he wasn't around too much for her. And I guess it's because there's no pictures with her, right? So,
Yeah, but she's pretty confident. She says, "He loved me. I know he did. He just didn't have a whole lot of time."
and I thought this part was interesting because Jane has like this look on his face, right? Like he's
Yeah,
thinking. And so I thought, is this how he was with his daughter? Was he always just busy? Because I mean, we know that he was a psychic and he was like doing like TV appearances and things like that. And so I don't know, was he just so caught up in his fame that he just didn't have as much time as he could have dedicated to her, kind of thing? Or
yeah. I think that's a good sentiment. He's always there's a lot of these moments with fathers and daughters in this early season.
that makes him
Uh,
think, yeah.
yeah,
But he doesn't say it. And that's a good thing
no,
about Simon Baker is that he doesn't really have to say. Like he can just have this look on his face and given his backstory, you kind of just know what he's thinking, you know.
yep.
Although I will say that I didn't really pick up on this the first 3 times I watched the show.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing too with the rewatches that you can pick up more context.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. The wife mentions that her husband had worn a 100K lucky chip around his neck tied with a string. And so that's like they're gonna look at that as motive because I mean, yeah, I mean, can you imagine walking around with 100 grand
No.
on your neck?
Oh my goodness.
That's
Like
crazy.
he's asking for trouble.
I mean, I guess he must keep it hidden, but even so, if people know you or if you ever say it, then yeah, just I would never do that. So next they head to the casino where they meet the head of security. I guess it's I can't remember the name of the town. It starts
Kalita.
Kalita, yeah. So it's like a small casino resort on the edge of town or on the edge of the Nevada state line.
They talk about, like, the Nevada wing of the casino or
It's
the
like half
resort.
in, half out, yeah, or
Yeah,
something like that.
that's the impression. It does, say that the house that they visit is in Nevada. The
Yeah.
family's house is in Nevada proper,
Uh,
but it sounds like the casino or the resort and casino straddles the line.
yeah. Because he says the Nevada side, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
And Jane makes a lot of like remarks about the aesthetics and the environment that they use, and he talks about like how a lot of the techniques that casinos use are used in animal husbandry. And then they see Cal Trask who's playing at a table, and they talk about how he's a whale. And earlier Daniel had talked about how his job at the casino is to like soften people up. He's an in-house player, so he goes in and he plays and gets people loose with their money and things like that. So then Jane consents that they're gonna go do boring things. So and
Yep.
Jane's this is a thing for people who are in case you're watching this or listening to us as you're watching for the first time. This is something that Jane always does. Like when it's like come time to do boring police work, he's like, "Nope, I'm out."
Yep, so he gets $100 from Lisbon and says he'll triple her money.
In the security room, Lisbon asks about the dismembered hand because I can't remember who had said that it was a mob tactic. Somebody had said it earlier in the episode, right? Was it Rigsby?
It might have been. Let me or might have
But the security guard, Etienne, says that that's no longer a thing. The mob doesn't have power in Nevada anymore. So he dismisses
right.
that theory. So Jane took her money and he wins pretty big at the first blackjack table he sits at. And then he moves to another one with a 1K minimum. And eventually, security calls them to his table because they call like a code 9 or something, and it's
Yep.
because he's doing too well. He's winning too much. So he's like, "Oh, I just memorized the cards. Is that illegal?" He knows it's not, but
Oh, he
he's
knows.
not supposed to do that. But as he gets up, he tells Etienne that the dealer at the table is robbing them. And so she's got basically what she's doing is she has a partner on the table and he's playing and she's showing him cards and dealing a certain way so that he gets good hands. And I wanted to note that the man that's cheating with Alexandra is clearly supposed to be from Hawaii because he's wearing shell and nut lace. And for those of you who are listening and don't know, going to Vegas and gambling is really, really, really popular in Hawaii. Like it's so popular that Vegas is called the ninth island over here. People go. I mean, I'm not a gambler, so I'm not into Vegas. But yeah, a lot of people here love to go to Vegas. Like I think my in laws used to go every year
That's
when they were
interesting.
younger.
I wanted to point out that, the dismembered hand had the number 43 written on it,
Uh huh.
and the table they get called to is table
It's
43.
43. Yeah. So basically, he had written that down or something when he noticed. Maybe right.
So, yeah, they have cause to believe that the victim knew about this cheating dealer.
And actually, I think when Lisbon was in the office with Etienne, they said that he had an appointment that said 43
Yeah.
before he died. So,
Yep.
okay. And so here we start with this is one of those episodes where, like we talked about the travel thing, where they seem to go back and forth a ton.
Yep.
So I looked it up and like it's like really far to like Vegas, but they're not in Vegas. So I just like Googled like from Sacramento to like the edge of Nevada. And it's like a 2 hour drive. So even that is pretty significant.
Mhm.
But yeah, so back in Sacramento, Rigsby is asking Jane how much he won. He seems really excited. And I mean, that's like understandable because people always want to hear, how much did you win? How much did you win?
Right.
Right. And he tells him he won 250,000. It's like crazy. That's a
That's
lot
so
more
much,
than tripling her $100.
right? And it's, like, no big deal for Jane. He's just like, "Oh, just about 250,000."
It would have been funny if he said that and then handed Lisbon $300.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes, puts down a casino gift bag, and he goes to watch where Cho is interviewing the dealer because I guess they brought her all the way to Sacramento,
Of course.
and she says that she's saving up money to save her sick mother, and they like do some kind of thing where they tell her that her accomplice already talked to them and um, they think that because of the appointment book and her table number that he was onto her and he fired her. And she confirms that he did fire her and that but then they ask, well, then why were you working?
Right.
Because it does make her look pretty guilty, but she says that she tells him that, well, she came to beg for her job back, and when she learned he was dead, she realized, oh, nobody knows, so I can just come to work and clock in like nothing happened, which is pretty ballsy, but
Yeah, it is.
I guess you do what you gotta do. And we know that she's not the killer, so technically, she's not too bad, right? So but yeah, so here's the first. We had talked about this earlier, but this is the first time he actually does it. He bursts in and he asks a question. He says, "Oh, you can go."
And Joe's like, "She can?
They're actually all three of them. Lisbon's like, "She can,"
She
and
can?"
Joel's like, "She can," and even the lady, she's like, "I can." I love it.
Yeah, Lisbon points out that, this lady did commit crimes, and the
Yeah,
Nevada Gaming Control Board will want to charge her. And Jane's just like, "Oh, but we need her to be free so we can do these other things."
Yeah. He likes to do this, right? He likes to let people go so
Yes.
that they can trap other people or trap other suspects into thinking certain things. And because, yeah, he wants her to set a trap for Etienne, the security guy. I guess he suspects something about him isn't right. And so he wants her to tell him that they let her go and she talked to them and they want to talk to him next. So I guess they want to make him sweat, right?
Yep.
But then he goes and hands out his gifts to the team, and a lot of fans love this scene. So he gives Lisbon and Van Pelt gemstone necklace and earring sets, and then Cho's like, "Well, where's ours? You can't just
Yeah.
give gifts to the ladies. That would be creepy." I love how
And
he leaves him hanging for like a good long while. Like,
yep.
he's like looking in the bag, like, "Oh, what can I get them?" But then, yeah, he reveals that he got them expensive watches. And Cho smiles really big here. He really loves his hideous watch.
He is so pleased. It's like, that's expensive because it is the ugliest watch you've ever seen.
So Jane next says that he's got a reservation at the most expensive restaurant in town where they tell you the name of the cow your steaks came from. Which Van Pelt is like,
Ooh.
ew. But Lisbon nixes that, says they can't be seen going to fancy restaurants, and then so instead he suggests that they go to a bar. And oh my god, I wanted to mention that I have never noticed this before, but the place looks like a teapot on the outside. It's got like neon signs on the outside, and it's got a little teapot like pour spout
Spout.
and the handle on the other side. It's cool.
I wonder who picked it. Actually, did Jane say he knew of the restaurant?
Yeah,
Or
he
did he?
did.
Yeah.
I know a dive bar that looks like a teapot.
Let's go.
So while they're there, Van Pelt asks about memorizing cards, and this is where Jane first tells us about the memory palace. And he explains that he memorizes the position of the cards by making a vivid character for every single card, which, oh my god, could you do that? How many cards are there in
No
a deck?
way. 52.
Yeah, that's a lot. So he like has to come up with some character for each card, and then he has a place for each of them in his memory palace, and then that's how he memorizes. He says anyone can do it, but I don't think I can do
Uh-uh.
it. And this is where he first reveals that he came from Carney folk, and Lisbon is very interested in it. She says, "You're finally starting to make sense to me."
I'm so curious, though. Did she not know
I
his
know.
background?
I know, I would have thought that, like, they would have done, like, a background check on him, and she would
Yeah.
have read it, because Lisbon does her homework. So, I don't know, maybe he hid that well or something.
Then why is he revealing it at this point? It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to wanna talk about it too, he says, "Oh, it's a long story."
Yeah, glasses over it. I thought it was interesting to note that everyone is drinking beer on the team in this scene, and they're
Yeah,
playing poker with corn chips.
with literal corn chips, yeah. When
Yeah.
when the when the scene first started, I was like, "Ew, is this bar so gross that they just eat off the table?" And then I realized, "Oh, okay, they're literally playing with chips." That's pretty funny. So I was confused about this next part because they
Sure.
leave and they go to a motel, and Jane is lying awake in pajamas and he can't sleep. And so where are they at this point? Are they in Nevada staying at a motel?
They must be because they stopped at the bar on the way to Nevada, but
Yeah. They were
w
going back, right?
yeah, but I don't know, it's one of those rare moments where you actually see them traveling instead of
Yeah.
just being teleported, basically.
Yeah. Even though they
So
do that. Like I
right,
guess I just don't understand why they stayed at the motel
right,
and yet they're also like going back and forth over and
right.
over and over. So
Yeah, yeah. That yeah, that is kinda weird.
So at one point, I was like thinking about this. And I was like, "Oh, is this meant to be Jane's like long term motel?" Because they reveal that later, and they don't really talk about where Jane lives when he's in
Right.
Sacramento. But yeah, I was confused about this because he has pajamas too. So like, did he? pack a bag to go stay in Nevada and stuff like that. It was very strange to me.
Must be. Well, because Lisbon calls him early in the morning.
And she's like, "Where are you?" Right?
Yeah, so they have well, because they were gonna talk to Etienne in the morning, right?
Yeah. So actually, yeah, that must be where he lives, right?
And I think they're in Nevada.
Okay.
Yeah, because he leaves the hotel because he can't sleep, and so that must be why Lisbon's looking for him.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like she went to go look for him in his room and he wasn't there or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so because Lisbon had been like, I can't keep this. She gave the necklace back, and Van Pelt gave hers back. But the guys kept their watches.
Yes.
um, but
With big
basically,
smiles once again.
yeah, but basically, she's saying, I can't take it, and so he puts the rest of the cash that he won and the jewelry, and he puts it in the bag, and he just shoves it in a donation box. Which I don't know, it depends who opens that donation box, right? Like,
Right.
whether or not that goes to a good cause.
Yeah, it's kind of a sketchy way to donate that kind of money.
Yeah, he might be donating it to one person who does the pickups. But the reason Lisbon was calling him was because the wife wants to come clean, and this is what Jane's plan was for. He wanted to smoke out information, basically, and so they go to the house, and she confesses that she was the wife of the victim is confessing that she was having an affair for 2 years with the security guy Etienne. And so I guess what happened was they told him they wanted to talk to him, and so they assumed that she had said that she knew about their affair. And so that's like the motive. And I think that's because he had a bargain with her, right? With the dealer. He had a bargain with he knew about her, what she was doing, and she threatened him with she was blackmailing him into keeping
Yep.
her job. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what they assumed that she had talked to them about. So that's why they admitted she admitted to it.
Yep. It seems like everybody knew about this affair apart from the victim, or
Yeah.
maybe the victim even knew and didn't care,
And didn't
but
care.
it
Yeah.
feels like everybody knew, and but they're also being blackmailed by everybody.
Which is kind of funny because like you're being blackmailed into keeping a secret, and like you said, everyone already knows.
Yep.
Jane picks up on I can't remember what was Daniel doing. Oh, he grabbed the wife's hand or the daughter's hand, right?
Yeah.
Told her to hush.
Yeah. He's controlling his woman.
So yeah, he pulls her aside and he like throws like some bait in the water, basically saying, "Oh, I wanted to get in on a high stakes game, and I need to talk about it with you when Lisbon's not around." This like reinforces the whole Lisbon as his keeper kind of thing, but she knows because you can see that like she gives him a look like, "Did it work?"
Right?
She's clearly in on it. But then next they follow the guy Etienne home, and that's where Lisbon lays out everything that and how they came to the conclusions that they did. And meanwhile, while she's talking to him, Jane is looking at the ground, and he's like, "Hey, these footprints are deeper than these, the ones coming out." And so he surmises that whoever went in was carrying something heavy and not when they came out. Which,
Mhm.
oh my god, I would never have to do something like that.
It sounds like something out of, like, Encyclopedia Brown,
Yeah,
where, those mysteries for kids. They're always noticing details like that.
that's so funny. Oh, but yeah, so they go inside and they open the freezer, and and just before Lisbon opened it, I was like, "Oh my god, it's not plugged in." Ew. And yeah, sure enough, she opens it and they're all like, "Oh, it
Uh, Holding their
stinks."
noses. That is so funny.
Like, which is pretty like I mean, that's kind of a dick move, right? To not just I mean, it's bad enough that
Yeah.
he dumped it in the guy's garage, but it kind of seemed like he unplugged it on purpose because you can see the plug on top of the freezer. So, oh. I guess he must have done that because he wanted the body to be discovered, right? So,
Oh, yeah, because he is framing the guy, so it makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Although it didn't seem like they knew about the smell when they got in. It was only when she opened the freezer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be compounded terrible smell.
Yeah. I have watched CSI Vegas and oh, it would have eventually been not pretty. I guess eventually it would have
Right.
started smelling.
So Lisbon and Cho question Etienne back at the CBI. They drove all the way back again, but he insists that he didn't need the victim's money and that the last time he saw him, he was watching his whale tapes, the victim was, and he was obsessed with the casino. And so he did not care what his wife did. So he's just saying this is not actually a motive.
Yeah. So that's when Van Pelt gets the autopsy reports because now that they found the body, they can find out how he died. And he basically died of blunt force trauma with a long cylindrical object, like a pipe or a bat. And Lisbon, she sends Rigsby. She's like, "Go to Meyer's office and go see if you can find those tapes." But it's like, go drive 2 hours to find this. And you would think that they would just call the local police or something, right? Like, can you go to the office and but no, Rigsby's got to go.
but
Rigsby's a
she,
gopher.
yes, but she also tells him to check on Jane. So Jane must have
Yeah,
stayed
yeah.
in Nevada. So Jane got in on that high stakes game, and Cho and Rigsby are elsewhere in town searching Meyer's office. And there are so many books that Cho decides to call Jane for advice on where to look for the tape they're looking for. So Jane's like in the middle of a game. He pretends that his
His
girlfriend
girlfriend is
is
calling.
calling, and he asks for a quick overview of the bookshelf so that he can get an idea. But then he just kind of throws out two books, the Bible and Robert's Rules of Service.
Robert's Rules of Order, yeah.
Robert's, yes.
And
And
then they do find the book, and then they go and they watch. They so basically a DVD fell out, right? So
right,
and they watch the DVD, and Rigsby recognizes they find they see a woman going to Cal Trask's room. He was the whale that Jane had seen earlier, and he's actually at the game that Jane is at right now.
right.
And so they're watching a woman going to her room, to his room, presumably for sex. And then that's when Rigsby recognizes that it's Jessica, and that's Meyer's daughter. So, at what point did Rigsby ever meet her? Because he wasn't at the house, right?
No, he
It
wasn't.
was it was Van Pelt, Jane, and Lisbon. So I don't know. He must have seen a photo or something. Yeah. So Lisbon brings the daughter Jessica in, and they confront her about it and say that she was in the room for 45 minutes. And they say that they've looked into their financials and that they're in really big trouble. And she says that her husband is a likes to gamble. So I feel sorry for anyone married to a gambler. Must be terrible. Because I don't like gambling myself just because I don't like the idea of losing all my money. So I
Right.
can't imagine if you're like not even the one to lose all your money. That's like a special kind of hell in my mind.
I'm curious though if he's a professional gambler, is he gambling with his own money? I mean, is he gambling away the casino's money and then gambling away his paycheck as well? Is that the
I think
implication?
probably, yeah. Actually, I think that's just how gambling addicts are, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. But then they tell her that her father was watching that video on the night he died. So, I mean, it's pretty damning evidence that that had something to do with it, right? Because, I mean, even because she insists that her father loved her, even if he didn't have time for her. So that kind of tells us that, even if he didn't have time for her, he probably would have been pissed off seeing this, right? So
Yeah, for sure. Or maybe disappointed in his daughter or I mean, you don't know what all he would infer from seeing
yeah.
that.
So how do you think he came to the conclusion that he did? Like, why would he go to Daniel? Right? Like, how does he connect those dots between what he sees and like, does Daniel reveal that at the end? I have to go back and look. Oh, well, anyway, so back at the game, only Jane, Trask, and Daniel are left. Daniel is the son-in-law, but then Daniel
Yep.
beats Cal, and Cal says they each won one, and so this is
Mhm.
important for like Jane realizing something. And he says they need a tiebreaker later, and then although at this point Jane doesn't know what was on the video, right?
No, he
Or
wouldn't.
does he? because he was at the game while they were searching for the DVD, so how would he know what was on the tape and what they're guessing he saw? I think this is I don't know if this is lining up in my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because what does Jane know and when does he know it kind of thing?
right. But he must know something. He suspects something is up with
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah. Because yeah, there's a little exchange between Daniel and Cal, but then Jane makes like he's gonna leave, and he like
Yeah.
but he's like tricking Daniel into like getting him to stay so they can play some more because he basically wants to draw out the evidence that he is the killer, which eventually is revealed as the chip. And meanwhile, Rigsby and Cho, because I think they were in Meyer's office, so they were probably in the casino already.
Yeah.
That's where they found the DVD. So they intercept Cal as he's leaving, and they show him the video, and they confront him, telling them that that seems like motive, like maybe because you would think, because I think this is what we were talking about earlier. We were just talking about, right? The victim Meyer would see the video, and he would, of course, get mad at the guy, right? Cal
Right,
Trask.
at Cal Trask. Correct.
Yeah, but maybe he went to go talk to Cal, and Cal told him about why the daughter was there. And it's basically Cal reveals that Daniel bet his wife in a poker game for
Ugh.
$50,000. Yeah, like he was
Ugh.
giving off douche vibes, but I did not see this coming when I was watching it. And
No.
so, and it's like, ew, worst husband ever.
Yep.
And then we get another peek at Cho's awkward like comments about attractiveness, like in the middle of a like I this happened in the pilot, right?
Right.
What did he say? He said she's a good-looking woman,
Yeah.
right?
From the
Right,
pilot, yeah.
in this one, Cho says she's very attractive. It's like, oh my god. He's like, Cho, are you just always scoping out all the all the pretty ladies?
He's just saying the truth.
So it goes back to the game, and I guess what they're trying to say is that some time has gone by. Like while they're interviewing him, Jane has been playing, and meanwhile, the tables have turned and Jane is winning. And he sets up a glass with an ice cube at the bar. And this is when it falls to the ground and smashes, he uses that opportunity. The dealer looks, and that's when he recuts the deck. And so he's cheating. But
Mhm.
he's gotta set it up so that he draws out the 100K chip. So he leans over and he shows his cards to Daniel because he's trying to get him to think that he has a sure hand. But because he has almost nothing to bet with, Jane eggs him on, and that's when he brings out that he's got the 100K chip. But then Jane wins. He has four kings, and so he thinks that he can't lose. But then Jane reveals because he I think Jane had shown him what three sevens.
Something like that, yeah.
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 And so, but then Jane reveals that he has a straight flush. And I like this part. He looks through the chip, the hole in the chip, which is where the string was, where the guy was wearing, he used to wear it. He says, I see you.
Also, considering that at this point, we don't know when the last time Jane actually slept is because he didn't
Yeah.
sleep. That's at least, like, 2 nights where he didn't get any
Yeah.
sleep. Do you think he
But
might
oh
be a
my,
little loopy?
yeah. But I mean, oh my God. Daniel's pretty stupid, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
I mean, because I mean, at some point you can kind of sense that he thinks that he's got the 100K chip, right? That's the
Mhm.
evidence that he took it
Yeah.
off of the body,
Yep.
because early in the episode they were looking for it, and Lisbon had said this is motive. And we were talking about how you don't shouldn't walk around with a 100K chip on your neck, but yeah, I guess like, when you're addicted to gambling and you, like, are so tempted, you make stupid moves. But it's funny because he was like, I'm saying he's stupid because he was literally there when they talked about the chip, right? Or
Yep.
had he actually, maybe he walked
He
away,
might
right?
have.
Yeah,
He
actually,
might
I
have
think
been
he
in the
walked
other room.
away. He got up and he went to go do something, and he said, "Will you get me a whiskey?" Oh, yeah, okay. That might explain it. He's still stupid, though.
And even, looking forward when he talks about how he thought he was so clever cutting off the hand to try to
Yeah.
implicate the mob when they've made it very clear that the mob is not relevant and no one was ever considering the mob.
So then they take Daniel back to Sacramento.
Woohoo!
Yeah, they have a flashback and they show how Daniel and Meyer had a fight in the parking lot, and ooh, he like grabs a baseball bat, which is what Van Pelt was talking about.
Yep.
He beats him with it, and he kills him right there in the parking lot. But yeah, he's really angry. So I think yeah, it must have been that he went to go talk to Caltras, and that's where he learned what Daniel had did, betting his daughter for sex.
Yep,
Yeah,
because we also dig into it, and says it's a double standard, just seeing how Meyer treated his family
yeah.
and to bring this judgment on Daniel.
But I mean, I think it's fair to say that he had a right to be angry.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't spend a lot of time with his family, that's still it's still I like that he went after him because that is a awful thing to do.
Yeah,
Awful. And
kinda crossed some lines.
and ew, the scene where he's talking about it with Troy and Rigsby, where he's like 100% willing but not happy. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't even want to think about that.
Ugh, uh-uh.
But being the gambling addict that he is, he has to know how Jane won. And he's like, "Oh, I cheated."
Yeah.
But this next scene helps establish a lot about Jane's character and where he is now. But yeah, so this tells us that money doesn't mean a lot to Jane because I mean earlier he won the 250K and he spent it on the team and he did have a bunch of cash left so he didn't spend it all, but he donated that and but yeah, so he goes and he gives the chip back to the family and he gets a hug. He doesn't like to deal with family later on, but yeah, maybe it's not established quite yet. But then he settles down on his couch. So is this his first couch nap? I don't recall
Ooh.
us talking about the couch at all before, right?
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
remember.
I think he sits on it, but we don't see him lying down. Like I think he sits on it in Ladies in Red. But yeah, I don't think I think this is his first nap. And I guess they were establishing with his insomnia that he felt like he couldn't rest until he solved the case, maybe.
Could be, yeah.
But he just closes his eyes when Cho and Rigsby come over and they're like, "Oh, how much did you win?" And he's like, "Oh, 300,000." And they ask him where it is. And he says, "I spent it." And then they show Alexandra. She's crying over her mother at the hospital. And a nurse comes in and says, "A really cute blonde guy left this for you at the front desk." And she opens the suitcase and it's got all the money that he won, which is interesting because Jane admits that he cheated and yet the casino still gave him the money.
Well, yeah, I guess whose money does he have at this point? Is it Cal Trask's
Yeah.
money? Is it the casino's money?
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
guess
Jane cares either way.
I actually, yeah, you're right. He must have been playing against other people, so that's why it was why that's why he was able to take it. But yeah, I guess it must have been Caltras. But Jane, but then yeah, so the episode ends with Jane smiling on his couch and he closes his eyes because now he can sleep.
He's at peace.
Cold reading. At what point does Jane crack the case? He says that he knew when Daniel was more concerned about the football game in the beginning.
As degenerate gamblers are a good scapegoat or a good person to look at.
I wanted to talk about this. So when Jane gives the poker chip back to the family, he says, "Your father died protecting you. So in the end, he was there for you." And they're playing Jane's family theme, the music here. And they don't often play this. They play it usually when he's like thinking about his family or he's like doing like Red John stuff. But I thought it was interesting because I feel like this is what I was talking about earlier, like when he was talking to the
Mhm.
daughter. So I think they play this music intentionally because I think it has to do with Jane's guilt. He wasn't there to protect his daughter, so I feel like he's like looking at this as he wishes that he had done this for his own daughter, right?
Or had the opportunity to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very sad. Jane breaks my heart all the time, especially on rewatches, because I
Yeah,
think when I was first watching through, I you don't have the context for this kind of stuff like
right.
all the time, right? So because there are things that we learn later that help you when you go back and you watch this kind of thing. So it's really interesting to hear that they had all of this set up. And I like that Jane gives some money to Alexandra to help her mother because in the last episode we just watched, it was when he had told Lisbon about how he's counting on being able to reverse his bad karma. So I love how that comes right after. Okay, hot reading. Karen's going to tell us some bit about behind the scenes stuff.
Okay, we have some deleted scenes from the script. There's a scene when Jane asks Lisbon for $100 at the casino. Etienne offers to comp him some tokens instead. But Lisbon says he'll have to decline because they're cops and they can't accept gifts. So at this point, Jane also asks Van Pelt for cash, but she disapproves of gambling, so she won't participate.
I can see why they might have cut this because she seems to disapprove of a lot of in
Yeah,
general in the
she does.
episode. So maybe they felt like, oh, this is a little too much.
And I think they picked up on Van Pelt already a little bit in the
Yeah,
opening scene,
yeah,
and
with the
but she
body betting.
yeah, she does play poker with them at the bar though, doesn't she? When they're using corn chips.
Yeah,
Or maybe that's more just of an object lesson with Jane, showing
yeah.
that he can force the cards he wants.
Plus, it's corn chips.
Right.
I can bet with Fritos, just not with money.
At the bar, there was originally a scene where Lisbon excuses herself to the bathroom and kind of models the jewelry for herself in the mirror. She admires her pretty jewelry that Jane gave her before she just kind of shakes it off and says, "Nope, I got to give this back." There's a scene where Lisbon talks to Jessica about why she honored her husband's bet by sleeping with Trask. She says she's committed to her husband and his gambling life, and she's adamant that he loves her and respects her, which Van Pelt and Lisbon do question, by the way. But she recognizes that since he is a professional gambler, that everything he owns is collateral. So she is willing to put herself in that equation. She says she did it for love. And in the later scene, after they arrest Daniel, he says his wife had nothing to do with the murder, and he calls her an idiot and says she didn't even suspect him.
Oh my god.
And so Jane defends her and says, "She loves you." And Lisbon says, "Yeah, you might want to get an update on that."
What an ass.
Oh yeah.
I
I I wonder though if that's an implication that Lisbon and Van Pelt talking to Jessica helped her reframe her
uh,
marriage.
yeah.
I would
I
hope
sure hope
so.
so. That poor lady. I hope she's not like sitting at his trial defending him and
Right?
testifying for him. Like, please,
Uh,
Jessica, please wake up.
there were a couple of fun descriptions in the script for the overnight poker game. It says that Daniel and Cal look like crap in the morning light. Jane looks like he always does.
Oh, so they were playing all night. Okay.
Yeah. And when Jane catches Daniel and he's looking at him through the poker chip, it says that Daniel looks like a unicorn just ran up and bit his arm off.
So random. And for the record, he does not look like that through the poker chip. He did not pull off that script look.
No, I don't think so. What would that look like?
I have no idea. Oh my goodness. All right. So, a couple other little behind the scenes things. Robert Rules of Order is a guide for conducting meetings and was written by U.S. Army officer Henry Martin Robert. And the exterior shots of the casino were filmed at a casino in Inglewood, and this led me down like a rabbit hole because like, wait. I was like, Inglewood's in the middle of LA. Why is there a casino and in the middle of LA? Because I thought like, well, you can't gamble in. I thought you can only gamble in Nevada, right? So I googled it, and I guess like it's a casino, and the difference is that you can play with other people. You can play against other people. You just can't play against the house. That's the, I guess, the difference is that in Nevada you play against the house. So
Interesting distinction.
and it's only the exterior shot. So I don't know, the interior stuff that must have been filmed in like a stage or something, because I looked at like the filming locations listed on IMDb, and it says like it's got like various stages on the Warner Brothers lot. So it must just be like a general casino stage or something,
Sure.
or yeah. Rewatch checklist. There are a couple of good Jisbin moments in this one, finally. Like what Jane says when they're at the bar and she's trying to give the jewelry back. He says, "I know those emeralds look lovely with your eyes." Aw.
Aw, he really wants her to keep it.
Yeah.
When Jane goes in to the interrogation to watch with Lisbon, he goes in and says, "Hi," and Lisbon says, "Hey." And this small moment becomes a standard greeting throughout the series.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's
I don't
someone
think I've
on
ever noticed that.
there was someone on Twitter who made a compilation video
Oh, that's so funny.
of all their hi and heys.
All right, so locations. I don't think there's any of the two that we had mentioned before, but this one has the blue. I'm gonna call it the blue glass building because it's got blue windows on it, and this building is used a ton on the show. So yeah, mark that here, and we'll watch for the building going forward.
What building is it in this episode? Like, what location is
It's
it?
it's the one right where the donation boxes are.
Okay,
Yeah. So it's used. I know it's definitely used in the one oh my god, I'm brain farting. Cheap Burgundy with the guy Philo.
okay,
That's where his press
okay,
conference is. Yeah.
okay.
All right. Favorite lines. I like the one where Cho says, "Where's our stuff? You didn't just get stuff for ladies. That'd be creepy." I love that part.
Love that one.
And then I like and actually it's this other one. It's a small one, but it's when Lisbon is on the phone, she was calling Jane. She's like, "Why didn't you just tell us that?" He said, "I had a strong hunch. If I told you about every hunch, you'd get very irritated." And that's like I love that because it's like one of his little excuses in his mind on why he doesn't tell
Yep,
Lisbon things.
yep. My favorite was, Rigsby has a couple of great lines in the opening, a couple of kind of punny moments. He
I,
says,
I I didn't even hear this.
yeah, so when they just have a hand and he's just frustrated, and he says he just assumes that they're not gonna be able to figure anything out, so he says, "We're gonna be talking to the hand for a long while." And then he says, "Dismemberments are a bitch. You spend months assembling the victim. There's always a piece missing."
Just like the puzzles.
Right.
I do want to relate a little story about this. So when I was a teenager, I remember I spent a long time on this, like, I don't know, 3,000 piece puzzle. Maybe it was even more. I don't know. It was laid out on our living room coffee table, and I was working on it for a long time. And I got to the end, and I was missing one piece, and I never found it. Eventually, I learned with my next puzzle that my cat had been
Oh,
eating
no.
pieces.
Oh, no. Oh.
And guess how I learned that? From the
Oh,
litter box.
that's terrible.
Oh my god. That cat. Okay, we'll be right back with our memory palace quiz. All right, we are back with a new Memory Palace quiz for you this week. You can check out our Instagram page for a bonus question on Sunday. The way that this works is I will ask 5 questions of increasing difficulty about the episode we just discussed, and you and Karen will have 5 seconds to come up with an answer. Some of these are easy. We've talked about them already, so hopefully you remember them from our discussion already. Question 1. What color is the jewelry set that Jane gets for Lisbon?
Green.
Yeah, because like we said, emeralds. Question 2. How did the team initially learn about the 43 clue?
It was written on his hand.
Yeah. Good job. And that's actually where Jane like talks about how he knows how what side hand the guy writes with, because which hand was it?
It was the right hand they
It was the
found.
right hand. So he said
S
he's left-handed, right?
Yep, yep.
Actually, this one's kind of easy because this is all in the beginning.
I like easy.
Question 3. How much does Jane win in his bet with Cho?
35 cents.
Very good. Question 4. Jane recommends Cho and Rigsby check 2 books for the DVD. Robert's Rules of Order and what?
The Bible.
Yeah. And bonus question. Which book did they find the DVD in?
Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah. Question 5. What kind of moisturizer does Jane smell on the dismembered hand? A lot of these questions are from the beginning.
Um, Something about almond oil?
Oh my god, you got it. Very good. When I saw that opening scene, I was like, "Oh, I gotta make this my my hard question." Yeah, so we hope you enjoyed that little quiz. Again, make sure you check back for a bonus question on Sunday. Um, any last thoughts? I actually really enjoy this episode. It's a fun episode.
I do too. I think this is one of my favorite opening scenes
Yeah.
of especially of season 1. Just the energy of the opening scene and how the team interacts and all of it. I think it's so good.
Oh, and actually, I forgot to mention, Kat in Discord has mentioned a couple of times that Robin Tunney is actually a professional poker player,
That's
and
right.
she said that while they were filming this, when she was playing with people in between takes, which is funny because you never see Lisbon playing any kind of card games
Mm-mm.
except with Jane. But yeah, in reality, she's the player. So I find that really amusing. I think in general, it's a cool episode because I mean I've said I don't like gambling myself, but I like watching gambling. It's always fun, and because I mean like tons of people love to watch like movies about people winning
Right.
at gambling, right? It's always fun to watch people like win at poker and things like that. So yeah, the game was fun, and even though Jane cheated, it's still suspenseful and
Yeah.
entertaining. So
I really enjoy, speaking of the gambling portions, how, Jane introduces himself at each table where he says,
yeah.
"Hi, I'm Patrick."
Alrighty, that's about it. So if you are enjoying Rom-Com Detectives, be sure to leave us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We want to thank the people who have done so already. For our Spotify listeners, you can leave us a comment on the episode with our question of the week and tell us what your memory palace would look like. Jane had said that his would look like a Midwest. What was it?
The Midwest Carney Circuit.
Circuit, yeah. If you'd like to join additional conversations about The Mentalist, you can visit the Mentalist subreddit at reddit.com/r/the Mentalist, and you can join the Mentalist Bullpen Discord server linked in the sidebar. To contact me and Karen, email us at host@romcomdetectives.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Threads, or Blue Sky at Romcom Detectives. And this week, we have a special announcement. Karin and I will be interviewing Mentalist cast member Owen Yeoman in the coming weeks, and we're looking for a couple of listener-submitted questions to play for him. To submit a question for consideration, call 1-650-733-XOXO or 9696 and leave us a voicemail. Please note that not all voicemails will be chosen for this. Good luck! This episode of Rom-Com Detectives was recorded on April 17, 2025. Rom-Com Detectives Mentalist Unit is co-hosted by Chris Watanabe and Karin Lubbers and is produced by Pico's House. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.